Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for coming. I'm on a mission to create opportunities like this one to talk about dying and death in positive terms. I don't want to be a spoiler, but, well, all right, I know I have to die. Oh, damn it. It's like, oh, bummer. I'm having so much fun. But I was out front selling luminaria, which I'm going to remind you about in a moment. And some man who'd never been here before came up to the front desk, and he's looking at everything, and he sees this sign that says Open Circle. And one of the amigos says, oh yeah, you have to come this Sunday. Loretta Downs is speaking about death. And he said, oh, I want to talk about that. So he's not here, are you? Did you change your mind? Okay. We have a lot of information available to us about aging well. And by the looks of this audience, we are reading it. We're paying attention to it. And we have our very own Kat Miller, who's got a website called Aging Freely. And we've heard her talk. And she recognizes the fact that part of life is the end of life. And from where I stand in my experience, the art of dying well is lost. Dying is a spiritual experience, and it's a physical, biological process, and we've turned it into a medical event. And that's why we're so afraid of it, because it looks really unpleasant. And I'm going to give you some tips to change your attitude about that, to look at the end of your life, as I look at mine, as a sacred experience. It's something I'm going to have to do, and I want to do it in ways that make me memorable, for one thing. I don't want to cause problems before I die. We're all born with death holding our hand. And we North Americans, we like to pretend she's not there, and we try to run away from her, and then we argue with her, and the Mexicans have learned to dance with her. That's what this time of the year is all about, the Dia de los Muertos. And the monarchs are coming back from the north, some of them 3,000 miles from Canada, and where they land in Michoacan, the local residents believe that they're the souls of the dead that are coming back. And that's having that image. In fact, I feel that the moment of death is like the moment the butterfly first breaks out of its chrysalis. It's free of the encumbrance it had, and it's a new form. It's transformed. It's gone through multiple stages in its life. Egg to caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly, like we do, from youth to middle age to older age to old age, if we're lucky. And so the Ars Moriendi, The Good Death, was a book written in the 1400s. And for years, people really pursued a good death, your own good death. But what's happened now, we have mobility. And the people that would support us are not around us. The Mexicans still have large families that are local. And they've been caring for each other through the end of life for centuries. They hand down caring. And now we've left, right? We've left that original source of caring, or they've left us. I have a cousin with 4 sons, and only one of them lives in the same state she's in, and he's an hour away in case of an emergency. The other ones are all over the country. How many of you have children that are in foreign countries? Well, we're in a foreign country. Okay, all right. How many of you, they're far, all right, they're far away, and they're far from each other even, so they can't support each other. And I think, talking about the end of life and sharing what we know and what we're going to know is very important for us, because it is something we need to be more prepared for than we are. I've been at the bedside of people for 40 years. I've experienced dying in the moment, in the hour before, in days before, in weeks before, and in some cases years before. Serious chronic illness can be a very slow, long dying process. But there's so much good that happens in it when we're not afraid of it. Families, I've been in ICUs with families tortured in the waiting room because they didn't know what to do. And I'm sure some of you have been in this situation. I have. I'm sure, I was present for an extubation. And it's not like pulling the plug on your vacuum cleaner. It's a much different experience. And this man was ventilated for 2 weeks because no one could make the decision to remove it. And I was graced to be present for it. And the doctor stood next to him and said, "Mr. W, when we disconnect this machine, you're going to die." She dignified him in that moment and let him totally unconscious, tubes everywhere, and he just let go when he was allowed to be freed. And the room was so peaceful, and the nurses were so honoring. It was really, he had, for him, what was a good death. But there are elements. What is a good death? I'm sure some of you have seen them, and some of you have seen the hard ones. We do have choices, and that's why what my tips are about, how you can help prepare yourself. And until then, this is I call this the ooh la la time. From today until then. Ooh la la. You do what you want. We have resources and smarts and assets, and we've got Google, for goodness knows. Do what makes you happy, what makes you feel more alive, and what makes you feel worthwhile of this life. I think that's really important. One of the first things is, I want to know when I'm dying. I want some doctor to be honest and say, hey, you've got this and you've got this much time, I think. So, oh, what do I have to do? Once you get diagnosed with something, you don't have time to take care of your stuff. All you're thinking about is how can I stay alive and how can I be comfortable. That's all you're thinking about. The other thing is being prepared as much as you can. Come to one of my classes at LCS. I'll help you prepare. Just having the awareness of being mortal, accepting that this is just as my container, this is going to be my chrysalis one day. I have to take care of it, which I do with ice cream and potato chips. All this living long stuff, I don't know about it. There's some things, I'm not exercising so much anymore, and I don't really care. I'm 76. I've done all this stuff all my life, and if I'm eating a little too many carbohydrates, it's okay. I'm getting bigger pants. I don't want to feel guilty because I bought Ben & Jerry's instead of a low-fat thing. I just don't want to feel guilty about this stuff anymore. I want to be in control at the end of my life, right? How many of you like being in control? Oh, yeah. I want to make some determinations. I want to have decision-making power. I think one of the things I've seen in many good deaths is people stop treatment. The docs will throw all kinds of things at us, and it's tempting. Do you want to spend the last month of your life going back and forth to a hospital for treatment, or do you want to spend it in your house having all your friends come and bring you stuff and take you to look at the lake one more time, or take a drive? Do something that makes you feel alive instead of dying. Being clean and being treated with dignity. I want that. That's very important to me. Give me medicine. I do not want to be in pain. Now, there's a lot of worry about morphine. Right now, I have friends who are 96 and 97. They live in Chicago. They're really good friends. We have lots of email communications. I taught the wife how to do FaceTime. Oh, just push that button. And they're at the end of their lives. She's finally been diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and he's just dwindling. And they want to die, and they can't yet. Their bodies are still percolating. I got them in hospice. They're getting Meals on Wheels, and they're sharing one. So they're losing a lot of weight, which is natural. We don't eat much at all at the end of life. And they're happy because now they know they have permission to die. They are. He's still driving. I wrote him, I said, don't tell the hospice people you're driving because they'll bump you out. And he couldn't, he told them, he said, if I don't get out of the house once in a while, I'll go crazy. And they said, okay, drive. We don't want you going crazy. These people are so professional. We don't have hospice here, but we have really good compassionate care.
Yes.
Good compassionate care. And one of the tips I'm going to give you is that location of choice. I want to be at home. Don't you? How many of you want to be at home at the end of it? Yeah, I have a whole scene. Well, you know, I do this all the time. I have a whole scene. I want to be on my patio. I'd like Paco to die before I do, but if he's still there and I've made a plan for him, thanks to Juanita's Tales, I say Tales of Mexico, tailendplanning.org.com. Or tailendplanning.com will help you make a plan for your pet.org. Tailendplanning.org. That's something, yes, anyhow. You know, I want my wishes honored. A lot of people say to someone who gets sick, oh, don't give up, keep fighting. Hey, it's like the ice cream and the chips. Leave me alone. This is what I want. I want chocolate ice cream all the time. Probably not chips at that point, but maybe a little something to smoke. Bring me gummies. Bring me gummies. I want I want you to agree with me. Whatever I choose to do, don't give me a hard time. That's good death. Spiritual and existential needs are met. You know, if you have a faith community, invite them in. Let them know that you're at the end of your life so they can pray for you. If you have a meditation group, if you have your own rituals, be sure that you have them part of this experience at the end. And loved ones. Oh my goodness, don't leave your loved ones out. Until the very end. I find at the end, people don't want a big room full of people. Although I have to say, I had a friend, what did I do with my clock? Very important thing, because I get caught in stories.
Oh, don't worry about your clock.
Don't worry about my clock.
Yeah.
I'm actually on schedule. So, my friend Michael was here. This is a couple years ago. I had lunch with him one day, and he had a big lump on his neck. And I just said, Michael, what's that all about? And he said, oh, I have a doctor's appointment. And it was cancer. And they did surgery, and when they did the surgery, later they found it had grown into his esophagus. Right, not a good place. And we had talked about advanced directives before, but we never really concluded the conversation. And I went to visit him one evening, probably around 6 o'clock. And we're talking, and he's in his bed, which was a high upstairs, good view outside. And he was hooked up already to an IV with pain medication and nutrition because he couldn't eat solid food. And he didn't want a feeding tube. And while I'm there, the oncologist showed up. Now, where in the world would the oncologist go to a home visit at dinner time?
Mexico.
Mexico, right, Viva Mexico. And we're talking, and I, of course, said to the doctor, you know, what are your recommendations for what's happening here? And Michael said, yeah, what could I do? And the doctor said, well, you can go to Guad for radiation and chemo 5 days a week. Probably take 6 weeks.
No.
Now Michael's hooked up to all this stuff, and he looked at him and he said, I don't want to do that. What's my other? And then I said, well, doctor, can he get sedation? Michael said, could I suffocate? And the doctor hung his head and said, yes. And then I said, well, can he be sedated? And there is something called terminal sedation that is legal in Mexico. It's legal everywhere in the world, actually, at the end of life. And the intention is to end the suffering. It's not to end the life. So the sedation is slow, and the patient sleeps for a few days. They're not eating, they're not drinking, they're getting hydration, which it complicates the dying process because we want to dehydrate to die, which is not uncomfortable. And he died. He did get the hydration. The doctor called me. I was his power of attorney for healthcare, and he never gave me a copy or told me. My bad. We had the conversation. I just didn't pursue it. This was a few years ago. I'm more mouthy now. And I had to send a copy of my Permanente to the doctor before she'd do it. And he slept for 3 days. He died in this beautiful room, surrounded by, he had 17 friends in the room and his 7 cats on the bed. It was his good death. And he was able to plan it and prepare for it. I mean, when the time came, he said, okay, how do I make this good for me and for the people who love me? And he did. You know, I mean, peace and completion. You want to be able to say, I've taken care of the things I need. You've forgiven everybody you need to forgive, particularly yourself. We all carry some, oh, I should have, could have, would have done this around. Do not carry that until the last hour of your life. Not worth it. You know, Nelson Mandela said, when he left prison, if I carried out the bitterness and resentment when I left, I'd still be in jail. Those of us who carry around unforgiveness and resentment, we carry it. It's, you know, it makes us older. So do the work you have to let go of the things that you don't want to carry into this wonderful ooh-la-la time we have. Legacy. You know, this is our opportunity. Right now, I have a lot of stuff. And I have a will, I have all this stuff, but I realize I need to update it. There are a number of people in my will that's now almost 6 years old that I don't like so much anymore. Truly. I mean, I've got 4 godsons. I'm their only aunt. I don't get a birthday message. I don't get zip. You know, and they all have good jobs. They have kids. They're doing well, but not me. So I'm thinking about that. My great niece, who's 33, she's a teacher in Chicago, and she has lived like a church mouse and managed to save enough money to buy a condo, which she just did. And I talked to her last night to congratulate her, and she said, I said, how much is her moving cost going to be? And she said, I know, $1,000, $1,300 to move. She's got a 1.5 bedroom apartment right now. And I said, well, I'm thinking, and she said, but I got bed bugs. I said, what do you mean you have bed bugs? She said, you know, I got them at work, and I brought them home. And she's not quite, and she said she called this company, and they do this thing, and that's going to be $1,700. And I thought, well, now she's got this big bill. So last night I Zelled her 2/3 of the money. Nice. Right? I feel so good. You know, I'm not taking vacation. I have enough. I can do that. I think it's important. I went to a memorial. It was actually a celebration of life here a few years ago. And the woman had cancer. She was in her late 60s. Single gal, had lots of girlfriends. And she decided to have a party before she died. And she knew she was dying. And she had Eve's closed the restaurant. Her girlfriends made these paper flowers and put them in the plants all around the pool. Was anybody there? No. All around the pool. And when you got in, there was a friend all dolled up, sitting at a table giving out 2 drink tickets. There were tables set up all around the place, 4s and 6s, and 60 people came to this party. And she had a throne room on the side, and she was dressed with a flower crown and, you know, Mexican embroidered blouse, and she was sitting there in this peacock chair with 2 chairs on either side of her, and she had a table in front of her with little stuff on it, lots of little things, personal things, and then there was a dead tree with plastic bags that had jewelry in it, and when you went to talk to her and say hi, no, you don't say, how are you, to somebody who's dead. You say, I'm so happy to be here. Don't ever say, how are you? You know, I haven't been feeling well, and I've told maybe 6 people, and 20 people no. And now everybody's saying, how are you? So it's like, okay, when somebody you know is dying, that is not. I'm so happy. So when you went up to say hi to Linda, she said, take something. And I took these earrings. This is her legacy. I hardly knew the woman. She was a client. And I remember her. I remember that party. And she was glowing. And I said, Linda, how do you feel about this? And she said, I'm excited. I'm going home. That's where I want to be. No, I'm going home. It was a beautiful party. People stayed late. They ordered more drinks. It was good. You know, dying, there's such a sacredness to death. And we don't experience it enough to really, and it's not like the movies. Believe me, it's not like in the movies, you know. Not like some movies. We're getting more realistic films. We're getting lots of books, podcasts. There's all sorts of available information to help us prepare for the end of our lives. And my mom, who tortured me for the first 57 years of my life. It's like I never felt good enough, no matter what I did was not good enough. But one day, she was hospitalized for something, and they brought her back, and I'm in her room, and I'm like buzzing. I've got flowers in the vase, and I filled the candy jar so the nurses' aides would come in more often. And I had all the cards lined up for her, and I, made the bed and had the curtains tipped just right so the light was right. And they put the ambulance people put her in bed, and I'm like, Mom, what else can I do for you? And she said, just be with me. That's what we're asked to do. I took off my shoes and got in bed with her. That's what we're asked to do. Listen, just be. We're not there to fix anything when someone's dying. We're not there to challenge what's going on. Just be there. And that takes some practice, frankly. So what are my 10 tips? Okay, first one is hard. Accept impermanence. Like the leaves are falling. We don't try to stop that. That's a natural process. We have to accept impermanence. This is not what it used to be. By any means, it's not what it used to be. And I'm accepting this transformation. I'm starting a little notebook on memory things because I'm noticing some changes I don't like. Yesterday, I couldn't subtract something. I was like working this as, what's going on? I can't do math. I used to, in my head. Now maybe this is all normal aging memory loss, but it might be a gateway to more. So I'm paying attention because I want to be in control of my outcomes, should that happen, and have the people who care for me be comfortable with what my choices are. It's like, I just bought 24 white roses for the ceremony of life we're having, and I put them on my table, and after a couple days, they started to turn. And I realized the reason that life is so delicious is because it ends. Because it ends. Even if you live to be 117, like the oldest person who just died did, she was in France, it ends. And that's what makes it delicious. I don't want to waste a day being crabby or nasty. I don't have time. Well, maybe a little bit. maybe a few minutes of being crabby or nasty. And that's what the Ben and Jerry's is for. You gotta talk about it. It's like death it can't be taboo. Hello. It can't be taboo. That was a little bee. I have a friend who died. This is a true story. I have Marcy. She had Parkinson's for years. And when I met her, she was in the nursing home with my mom, all curled up in her wheelchair, and she was happy. Marcy was adorable. She had 2 daughters who came. We'd have dinner together. And she's just always in a good mood. I'm good. How are you? And she died. I was there when she died. And we were all keeping vigil that night, and one of her daughters said, "Good job, Mom," when she died. "Good job, Mom." They had balloons beside her casket at her funeral. She had worked so hard to stay alive and just beautiful. And after she died, the funeral home called one of the daughters and said, "Did your mom have anything to do with bees?" And her daughter said, "Funny you should ask that. For a while she lived in an apartment in California, and at the kitchen window she had it open, and a bee would come. And this bee came back. It was a big bee. It would come back, and it would sit there, and she'd talk to it. Why?" And the funeral director said, "Because when we opened the blankets over the body, bees flew out." Wow. And there were no bees in that room. I was there. Really? So much mystery. Marcy. Hi, Marcy. Got to talk about it. A mark of a healthy society is being able to talk about death and dying as a natural part of life. This whole taboo thing, it's silly. It doesn't help us. We have Death Cafe here, the first Friday of every month. It's at Esmeralda's, 2 to 3:30, every first of every month. Go. Get a coffee at the coffee shop next door, and you just sit and talk about death. It's no agenda, no nothing. Nobody's saying, "Oh, that's not right," or "I don't want you." It's just an opportunity. There's a website called Death Over Dinner. It tells you how to hold a death over dinner. Invite some friends to do it. But tell them that's what you're doing. No surprises. And friends, you know. So the first one is accept impermanence. Talk about death and dying. Prepare. We are in a different place now. We have to prepare for the end of our lives differently. No question about it. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it's different here. We have to do medical directives, and it costs money, about $200 US to do a directive. You need to name one, I suggest 2 or even 3 people. At least one of them has to be local, in case you're in the hospital. And this is in the event that something happens and you're not talking. People have strokes, people have accidents, people have heart, not attacks that kill you, but heart attacks that put you in the hospital. So being prepared for that is a way also to accept your mortal. Gee whiz, I could have a problem one day that needs someone else to speak for me. So having your medical directives done, and ask yourself, if I die tomorrow, who has to do what? Ouch. I know. I mean, even me, and it changes. It changes. The Lake Chapala endoflifecare.org website has 9 forms in the resource section that you can download. And they're blank forms, or actually you can also fill them in online. Type in, no you can't.
Download it and then fill it in.
Download it and fill it in. It's for you and your loved ones. It's got household information, pet information, banking information, accounts, passwords, all these things that somebody needs to know. And I suggest you start a file or have a binder with with your advance directives, with a copy of your passport, with a copy of your birth certificate. Just have an emergency file that somebody knows where it is. So if you go to Lake Chapala endoflifecare.org, there's going to be a lot of helpful information on it. We'll have resources like hiring nurses when you need them, palliative care doctors in town, the death doulas. How many of you were here for the death doula talk in February? Yeah, we have a group of people who are doing end-of-life support, which is very helpful. And then the LCS booklet. Do you remember this little booklet? I've given out personally about 1,000 of them, and I think 5 minutes?
No.
10. They're in drawers. Personally, they're in drawers. We are updating it, and by the end of the year, this is going to be more robust and also be available online. So I'll let you know, or somebody will let you know when that happens. Okay. So do your homework. Gratitude and service. Very important to practice. Service, either donating money or being a volunteer. It fills you up in the most exquisite way. And being grateful for everything, I mean, really? We're not grateful. But not all of us are. And I can tell you that the less grateful you are at the end of your life, the harder it is to let go. You're just hanging on. I didn't do everything I could. Remember, oh my God, we're having a celebration of life here this Wednesday that is so beautiful. And you can buy a luminaria for 50 pesos. They're selling them over here. The money pays for this event and the Halloween party that's happening in a few hours. Oh God, 250 kids in costume are going to be here. I'm not. You can get, Gloria Barnhart is in charge, the lady in the red outfit. You can get a memorial card for free and put somebody's name on it, which is part of the ceremony on Wednesday at the end. But it's about remembering. I have a friend who keeps a tab in her phone with the names of all her people who have died. And I keep this book that I started in 2007. When someone dies, I write their names and their age and the date they died. And you have to be a friend to get in here. But I've got I started in 2007, I have 200 people in here. And My brother and sister-in-law died in January of '85, and 3 weeks apart. They were married 63 years, and he died, he got it was like 40 days from diagnosis to his death. And they were in Florida he was in independent living, she was in the dementia place. And I got her in hospice, and then we got him in hospice, and they moved her into his room so they could hold hands and watch television. They were hardly ever apart. So after he died, she said, I don't want to stay alive. That was it. Remember. Okay, got to train your doctors. Number 6, train the doctors. Tell them what you want. Tell them you want them to be honest with you. Recognize your turning points. I mean, every disease has turning points, or even aging. I think it's a turning point when you realize you need a cane so you're safe. Wear good shoes, don't climb on ladders. Really, you don't want to fall. Half of the people in nursing homes are there because of a fall. It's not a good thing. Pay attention to other people's deaths. Because that's how you can decide what feels, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, but that sounds so good. I want to have a party like Linda did. I want somebody in bed with me holding me when I die. Think about the things that you'd like and kind of create that. Create a team. I recently saw 4 people having lunch here, and they had papers in front of them, and they stopped me. We were in your class. I said, oh. And they said, we're doing our stuff, and we're putting each other on each other's paperwork. And we've called ourselves the Grateful Dead. There's a role model. Okay. So, and 10, prepare. Think about what you want done with your body. I hear people say, I don't care what they do with my... That's burdensome. Somebody is going to pick up what remains of you, and I know most of us get cremated here, and what do you do with it? You know, my sister's sister-in-law, Mary, had a brother she couldn't stand, but she was the only person in the family who would pick up his ashes. I was surprised she even did. And she put them in the trunk of her car. And she drove them around for 3 years because he didn't tell her what to do with them, and she didn't know, and she didn't want to spend money because you have to pay to bury them. And one day she's driving down an alley, and she said, she opened her trunk and said, ashes, and she drove down an alley and put them in someone's trash can. I don't want that to happen to me. If you really don't care what happens to you, ask the people who love you, where would you like them? Because the point is to have a memory of where your remains are. That's the point. The point is to give someone an opportunity to create a ritual and do something beautiful for you. I mean, I know people that will throw roses in the lake. But just let people have a memory that's of something that's good, and not, oh God, what do I do with that? You know, I had a party and my nephew came up. Oh, I had just decided I was going to be cremated and I want my ashes by my mom's grave. So I go up to my nephew and I said, Bruce, I have something to tell you, but I'll call you later. Oh, tell me now. I'm so excited. When I die, I want to be buried with Mom. And then someone tapped me and I went away. He called me a few days later. Aunt Lou, are you sick? No, I'm sorry, honey, I'm not sick. Good thing he asked. He said, well, I have a problem. I can't bury you with Mom because she wants to be buried with Dad. And I said, not your mom, my mom. I couldn't spend eternity with my brother-in-law. And I liked him, but not that well. So, make a plan. Make a plan. Make a plan. Okay. I know death can be unpredictable. I know this, you know. But I also know I'm closer to my expiration date than I have ever been. And I chose 2 people who are going to be responsible for me in the event that something happens and I'm not dead, but I need decisions made. And I wrote up a whole 2-page explanation for them in the event something happens and I can't speak and you have to be my voice. And we had dinner, opened a bottle of wine. I made them sign it. It's in my folder. And then we are going to pass out this form. It's my preferences for care at the end of my life. It's something to think about. Beautiful questions like, well, I'll tell you what, I've adapted some of mine. Like, I've been very careful. I want as many drugs as will keep me comfortable, even if it makes me sleep a lot. I want to be cared for with kindness and cheerfulness. I want good oral care. I want attention to my appearance. Tweeze my chin hairs, please, and put lipstick on me. Hey, guys with the ears and the nose. I want flowers and photos around me. I want spiritual support. I do want spiritual support, but not a lot. A lot of praying around me. And I want my favorite music, and I told them what channel to put on. So I think this helps them a lot. I know it does. And I figure I'll have some more time. This is just in case. So my intention for today is that we all have enough information so that more of us have the good death that we hope for. That's all.